Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at some very cool battles in the Open Master League featuring a level 50 fully maxed out Shadow KYOGRE. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Mini Coke, so many thanks for the battle submission. KYOGRE, of course, is going to be a pure water type Pokemon, and this trainer is running Waterfall, Surf, and Blizzard. Shadow KYOGRE is going to be outputting a tremendous amount of damage, but due to being Shadow, is going to be taking more damage as well. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's check out level 50 Shadow KYOGRE in action. Hopping into the first match, picking up a miserable lead, Therian Landorus into Hisuian Avalugg. We see the save switch into the Dialga. The opponent is going to stay in with the Hisuian Avalugg to apply an Icy Wind debuff. Now that the debuff has been applied, opponent is going to send in Lugia to be a damage sponge and absorb this debuffed energy from this Dialga. Dialga is going to tank the Sky Attack, no problem. Dialga is going to fire off the Iron Head. Draco, of course, not going to be enough to KO from this range, so going for the Iron Head first, and then going to try and make it to the Draco. Able to make it to the Draco just before that final Dragon Tail picks up the knockout. Draco connects, just not enough to pick up the KO, and Landorus will get a mud shot down. In comes Shadow KYOGRE, the Shadow Waterfalls tearing through the Avalugg. Avalugg firing off a charge attack, trying to call the Icy Wind bait, but it's the Rock Slide. In the back, it's Palkia, and this looks dire. There's only one win con remaining. Shadow KYOGRE making it to the Blizzard. Do they respect the damage? They do not! Shadow Blizzard picks up the one-hit KO. Hisuian Avalugg farms down the KYOGRE, but now Landorus gets its turn to farm down the Avalugg. Avalugg can debuff with the Icy Wind, but they're just running out of HP. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Picking up a tough lead in the next match, Therian Landorus into Shadow Mewtwo. Mewtwo does win charge attack priority, so Landorus is just going to go for the extra and commit a shield. Ideally, out of this lead, you would love to catch a Side Strike onto Dialga at some point. Landorus is going to fire off the Sandsear Storm. Sandsear will be no-shielded by the opponent, and there we have it. Very nice catch, catching the Side Strike onto that Dialga, and saving, importantly, that Sandsear Storm for later. Opponent sends in their own Dialga. Can a Draco Meteor be reached here? Not going to try and risk it. Instead, just going for the Iron Head. The Iron Head is going to be no-shielded by the opponent. Opponent is going to get a farm down and exit with quite a lot of energy, but importantly, Therian Landorus has a charge attack loaded and wins charge attack priority versus the Dialga. So you can send in the Landorus, and if the opponent wants this energy, they're going to have to give up their first shield. That's exactly what they're going to do. This attack is now debuffed, but a Draco Meteor, even at -1, is still a Draco Meteor, so we will see the shield, and Landorus is going to get a full farm down. So Landorus exiting with energy. In the back, it's a Mamoswine, and things are looking pretty good for a potential Shadow KYOGRE sweep. Landorus is going to continue to overfarm, look for the catch onto Shadow KYOGRE. In comes the Shadow Mewtwo. Mewtwo succumbs to the pressure from Shadow Waterfall. All that's left in the back is the Mamoswine, and the opponent resigns the match. Speaking of KYOGRE, the opponent has one on the lead. This is a tough matchup. We're going to see a save switch into the Shadow KYOGRE. The opponent is going to answer with Palkia. Palkia farming up energy here. KYOGRE is going to call that this is only going to be the Aqua Tail. Palkia does go for the Aqua Tail, and now Palkia has to shield or they're getting KO'd. We've seen this Shadow Blizzard damage. Palkia is forced to commit a shield. Down goes KYOGRE, but now in comes Dialga. Dialga looking to try and go for a potential one shield farm down here, hoping to get the call correct on the Draco Meteor, and the shield is correct. That's massive. Dialga exits with quite a lot of energy. Opponent is going to send in their own Dialga, going straight for the Draco Meteor, and I do see a win con in this match. Grab the shield with the Draco, send in the Landorus to bait back out the KYOGRE, and then the play is going to be farm down the opposing KYOGRE with your Dialga, and try and exit with a Draco to KO the opponent. This is going to be a bit interesting, and we see going for the win con here, choosing to let that through, and instead going for the win con with the Dialga. Dialga looking for a farm down. Dialga is going to no-shield the Surf. This could get close. Dialga starting to run out of HP. Can Dialga get the farm down here? Dialga does get the farm down. All that's left in the back is the opponent's Dialga. Masterful gameplay here, baiting back out the KYOGRE to get energy on the Dialga and take that win. Great lead in the next match, Therian Landorus into Dialga. Opponent safe switches into Mewtwo, gonna stay in with the Landorus, and due to the one-turn switch, Landorus will be able to outpace and fire off the Sandsear Storm before Dialga is brought in. Opponent is going to farm up to back-to-back Side Strikes, could also potentially be the Focus Blast, choosing not to respect the Focus Blast. I love that play. The opponent is running Ice Beam on the Mewtwo. Dialga can very comfortably tank 2 Ice Beams at -1 attack from the opponent, get the farm down, and just exit with a massive amount of energy. Almost nothing in the format wants to take a Draco Meteor, choosing to get a couple extra Dragon Breaths in before going for the Draco. The Draco connects, and the opponent is barely going to be able to save their Dialga on 1 HP, and now they send in their Kyogre. It's going to be the battle of Kyogre, regular versus Shadow. Shadow Kyogre continuing to farm, and knowing at this point, just going straight for the Surf is the win con. The opponent is going to commit the shield. They need their Kyogre to sweep, but they have an uphill battle ahead of them, even though they are ahead by 1 waterfall. The Surf is going to be shielded, firing off another Surf. The opponent is going to have to start committing shields here, and they do. And I think from here, you can just win with the Landorus or get the catch onto the Landorus as well. Very nicely done catching the Surf, as Landorus will be able to survive the waterfalls. Oh, the catch by the opponent. What a beautiful play. Oh my goodness. Beautiful catch by the opponent. The opponent trying to fight their way back in this match. Shadow Kyogre is going to commit the shield. Shadow Kyogre able to make it to the Surf, and that's going to be game over. Beautiful gameplay there by the opponent, trying to fight back against near impossible odds, but Mini Coke still able to take the win. Same leads as last game, Landorus into Dialga. Opponent tries for the Sandsear catch onto Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh will immediately be met with the Stone Edge. Stone Edge grabs the shield. In comes Shadow Kyogre. Shadow Kyogre, these Shadow Waterfalls tearing through the Ho-Oh. Opponent overfarms and plays to a CMP tie that they do not win. Unwilling to give up the second shield, down goes Ho-Oh. Back in comes the Dialga. These Dragon Breaths are adding up quite a bit. Shadow Kyogre not going to make it to the Blizzard. Instead, going to go for the Surf. Surf is resistant, but this is a Shadow Kyogre. Kyogre doing massive damage to the Dialga. Dialga exits with a lot of energy. I think I would have preferred to bring in the Dialga here, as that way you could just shield once and farm down, whereas the opponent is going to make it to double Iron Head and grab shields from the Landorus. So Landorus goes from 2 shields to 0 in the blink of an eye, and in the back is Reshiram. Reshiram is going to be met with the Sandsear Storm, of course getting that guaranteed attack drop, farming up with the Landorus, the switch into Dialga as the opponent fires off the Fusion Flare. Opponent actually decided to go for a Crunch there. They are the same energy cost, but now Crunch definitely not going to KO, so they're going to have to go for a Fusion Flare here if they want to remove Dialga from the field of play. Fusion Flare connects. Dialga does not make the Iron Head. Landorus running out of HP as it makes the Sandsear Storm. Dialga still lurking in the back with some HP left. It's going to be a race. Dragon Breath versus Mud Shot, and on 1 HP, Landorus survives and takes the win. But Landorus sees a familiar foe in the next match as it leads into Hisuian Avalugg. We see the save switch into the Dialga, and much like the previous Avalugg lead, this opponent is going to stay in and go for an Icy Wind before they switch out. The Icy Wind is going to connect. The opponent choosing to stay in here, however, and Hisuian Avalugg does only win the 2-shield versus Dialga. They have to commit shields early and often, whereas Dialga does not have to shield this second Icy Wind. The Icy Wind is going to connect. Dialga unfazed, farming up. Opponent tries for a catch onto Lugia. Lugia will be hit with the -2 Draco Meteor, and the clock should hopefully be up soon for the Dialga, but unfortunately it does get knocked out by that Dragon Tail. Down goes the Dialga, but now in comes Shadow Kyogre. Kyogre is going to be shielding up as Lugia fires off the charge attack, and the opponent full sent the Aero Blast. That is a massive call. Kyogre trying for the farm down, not able to get there, so firing off the Surf on charge attack priority to the Sky Attack. The Surf is going to pick up the knockout. Opponent sends in Palkia, farming up to the Blizzard, going for the Surf bait. This is double resisted. This is an incredibly risky bait, but it pays off. The opponent commits the shield. Back in comes the Landorus. Landorus immediately met with the Aqua Tail. We do see the shield from the Landorus. Opponent sends in the Avalugg. Oh no, the Avalugg makes it to the Icy Wind. Icy Wind hitting for massive damage, and Landorus is going to fire off the Sandsear Storm, going for an undercharge. Undercharge is going to leave the Avalugg alive, but the Avalugg makes a last-second charge attack, and Rock Slide will secure the win for the opponent. Hopping into the next match, Landorus sees the familiar lead as it leads into Dialga. Opponent save switches into Giratina Origin and choosing to stay in with the Landorus and apply a debuff before sending in the Dialga. Not only is the Giratina against one of its worst meta matchups, but its attack has been lowered, so 2 Shadow Balls won't even pick up the knockout. Shadow Ball number 1 connects, Dialga shakes off the damage like it's nothing. Opponent tries for the second Shadow Ball, but the Dragon Breath registers and picks up the knockout. Dialga has so much energy here. Opponent sends in their own Dialga, looking to farm up quite a bit of energy, opting to go for an Iron Head bait. Let's see, does the opponent commit the shield? No, they call the bait, not able to make it to a Draco Meteor, only able to make it to a second Iron Head. So the opponent making a massive call, and that gets them back in this game. In comes the Landorus. Unfortunately, the Landorus gets 1 turn lag, so it does not get the Mud Shot through. In the back, the opponent, they have Palkia, and Palkia is going to be very difficult for these remaining 2 Pokemon, especially with a shield advantage. The Sandsear Storm connects. That is some very valuable chip damage, and debuffs will be needed. The opponent goes for the Aqua Tail. Landorus continuing to farm, going for another Sandsear. This will put the Palkia's attack at -2, but the Palkia is going to start shielding. Farming up 1 more Mud Shot, trying for the catch. Opponent does not fall for it. Continuing to farm with the Shadow Kyogre. Kyogre is going to go for the Surf. It's double resisted, but the opponent is too low. They have to shield. In comes Dialga, resetting the attack drop on the Palkia. Palkia back to their base attack stat here and going for the charge attack just before Kyogre makes the Surf. They're going for, oh, that's a Hydro Pump. That is not a Draco Meteor. And Palkia, with the perfect energy management, is going to be able to take the game. What a spicy moveset from the opponent. Aqua Tail plus Hydro Pump, and they take the win. We've got a Shadow Shiny Mewtwo on the lead for the opponent in the next match as it leads into the Landorus. Landorus goes for the Sandsear Storm as soon as it gets it, but loses charge attack priority. The Side Strike is going to be shielded. Damage output from Shadow Mewtwo is no joke. Sandsear Storm will be no shielded. I expect to see a catch onto the Dialga on 5 here, and we do see the switch out and the catch. So Dialga able to absorb this debuff Side Strike, no problem. Opponent is going to now send in Ho-Oh, and this is not an ideal spot to be as the Dialga. Dialga is able to make it to the Draco Meteor because the opponent stayed in with the Mewtwo. Had they switched immediately, then that could have been a very different story. But instead, Ho-Oh is going to go over 100 energy and go for a full farm down. In comes Kyogre. Kyogre is going to no shield as the opponent goes for the Sacred Fire. And now they will barely be able to hang on, and on 1 HP left on the Ho-Oh, make it to the Brave Bird. Down goes Shadow Kyogre. It's all up to Landorus to try and close out the game. Landorus in the back, it's Dialga, and suddenly this game seems winnable. Landorus has a ton of energy stored, firing off the Sandsear. That does massive damage. Opponent sends in the Mewtwo. Mewtwo will be met with another Sandsear Storm. The Sandsear Storm into the Mewtwo. We see the opponent, they realize there's no longer a win con, and they resign the match. Moving into the next match, picking up a fairly neutral lead, the Therian Landorus into the Xerneas. Landorus is going to fire off the Sandsear Storm on the 7th Mud Shot, throwing on perfect charge attack timing. The opponent is going to respond with the Moonblast. Even at -1 attack, Moonblast still does quite a lot of damage, so we will see the shield from the Landorus. Landorus continuing to farm. A Sandsear won't quite knock out here, trying to sneak a Stone Edge past both shields. And the Stone Edge will connect, and down goes Xerneas. In comes Dragonite, and Dragonite up a shield is a pretty big problem for this team. Building up to the Stone Edge, baiting with the Sandsear Storm, and the opponent calls the bait. Oh no! The opponent, perfect counting. They're going to fire off the Dragon Claw just before the Stone Edge is reached. The Dragon Claw is not going to pick up the knockout. Lander is barely able to hang on, firing off the Stone Edge and grabbing a shield from the opponent. In comes Dialga. Dialga will immediately be met with a potential superpower, shielding up as the opponent will full send the superpower, and in the back they have their own Dialga, and unfortunately for the Kyogre, it has absolutely nowhere to run. The opponent makes a bit of a misplay in my eyes as they go for the Iron Head. Iron Head not going to be threatening whatsoever. The Dialga is going to build up to the Draco, bait with the Iron Head, and get the shield. In comes Shadow Kyogre. Shadow Kyogre is going to need to make it to the Surf, and Shadow Surf will be able to pick up the knockout. The question will be, is can the opponent get a farm down here? Dragon Breath adding up. Shadow Kyogre trying to make it to the Surf, gets there. Oh my goodness, was that charge attack priority? Was it charge attack priority? The Surf connects. It was charge attack priority. The opponent, they maybe did not know that they lose charge attack priority there, and what looked to be an extremely winnable game for the opponent ends in disaster. Hopping into the final match, we see Therian Landorus going up against Palkia. Landorus is going to overfarm slightly and go for the Sandsear Storm. The Sandsear Storm does quite a lot of damage, so the opponent is going to commit the shield. Landorus farming up, but perfect timing here from the opponent as they fire off the Aqua Tail one turn before the Sandsear is reached. Farming up to the Stone Edge, going for yet another Sandsear. This Sandsear is going to be no-shielded by the Palkia. Palkia firing off the Aqua Tail. This Aqua Tail is at -2, but the Landorus has taken a lot of damage. The Landorus double shielding in this lead matchup. Landorus continuing to farm. If they're leading Palkia, odds are they could be weak to Kyogre in the back, so Kyogre could have quite a lot of play. There's a Ho-Oh, not able to make the Stone Edge. How well was the opponent counting? The opponent was not counting well enough. They get debuffed and they give up their final shield, and in comes Shadow Kyogre, and Shadow Kyogre, this is a situation where regular Kyogre cannot knock out, but the Shadow can. Down goes the Ho-Oh, in the back is Landorus, and the opponent concedes the match. All in all, Shadow Kyogre, I would say, is a side grade at best in the Open Master League. The extra damage can be helpful in certain matchups, but you definitely do feel the lack of bulk compared to the regular Kyogre. And considering that it's a side grade, but a more expensive side grade, I feel a lot of people are probably going to stick with the regular Kyogre, but it is very cool to see the Shadow fully powered up in action. And that Shadow Blizzard is no joke, absolutely vaporizing that Palkia. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.